Welcome to Combat Sports Talk, a podcast dedicated to UFC and Bellator discussion, the MMA community, and combat sports in general. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and joining me this week, this year, KC Onyebuchi.
Outstanding, sir! In the greatest country in the entire world! In the entire world, sir! And what is that name of the car? Alabama, sir! And what do we say? Go Bama!
What up, man?
Wait, you giving me a roll tide?
Roll Tide. That's not really how I feel, but shout out to Kara because I promised I would do that.
Oh, well, all right. You know, what's funny is that I've been in this, I've been in the hot box so long with this setting up for the show tonight that I hadn't looked at the score yet. So
I'm not going to lie to you. I haven't the foggiest idea.
Because Alabama was losing last time I checked. But now I just checked.
Well, we've got, I'm like, luckily we've got these things called smartphones.
Yeah. And spoiler alert.
Go Bama.
Bama won. Can't believe it. Bama came
Roll
back
Tide.
in overtime and beat Georgia. I can't believe it. But this is not a college football show. This is not even a pro football show. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Boo.
This is a UFC and MMA podcast, and this is the first one of 2018, man. It has been a while. So much has happened.
So much has happened. We missed some good fights at the tail end 2017, so looking forward to recapping a little bit of that action. Absolutely.
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to recap some of the action from December 30th, UFC 219. We're going to talk about some of the years. Everybody's doing their 2017 awards. We didn't do ours this year. We got to catch up on that for 2018. Then we'll, of course, do Finding the Angles and the fight card to end the show. All right?
All right.
All right. Well, the first thing we have to do is we got to do a little bit of that official decision. And let's recap. I mean, everybody's already recapped it, but we got to recap it because nobody recaps a fight card like we do, right?
Right.
And, of course, when we come back from any type of break, we always run into ring rust because why would we do a fight card when we're trying to do the official decision?
The official decision.
This is the official decision. This is the segment where we recap the fights that were. We're going to reach all the way back to 2017, the tail end.
New Year's time Eve. Here. Yeah.
New Year's Eve, where the UFC descended on Las Vegas, Nevada in the T-Mobile Arena, where Cris Cyborg defended for the first time her 145-pound women's featherweight title against the preacher's daughter, Holm.
It was an interesting card all around. I mean, I think you and I will disagree on how active it was, but interesting nonetheless because it had a lot of implications for standings within the UFC and rankings.
Absolutely. We're going to just run through the results. Like I said, we're 3-4 weeks out of it now, so let's just run through the results and talk about really what was the highlights of the card. There were two fights. The first fight of the night was Neil Magny, who defeated Carlos Condit. This was the return of the Natural Born Killer. He was kind of lackluster, got taken down early and often. Really didn't have any type of offense there. Carla Esparza defeated the rising Cynthia Carvillo via unanimous decision. The New Zealander, the Kiwi, Dan Hooker, defeated Mark Duplessis via submission, of guillotine submission in round 3. I just want to comment the fact that Mark Duplessis came out to Man's Not Hot. That is the best song to come out to.
Like, officially the best walkout song of 2018.
It's got to be.
Still 2017. Dang it.
Oh, yeah. It's
Way to end the year
2017.
strong,
You
though.
got that ring
he
rust,
ended the
man.
year strong.
Yeah, man. Man's not hot. 2 + 2 is 4. -1, that's 3 quick maths.
I'm so mad that you know so much.
I know the whole song now, and the worst thing is like my kids, we can all do it. Like now we're actually getting ready to put on a show and like take it on the road because we got that song down so tight.
I feel so bad for Christina right now.
It is kind of that thing where she just kind of grins and bear it, but that's okay. The co-main event was...
Quick note on that, though.
Yeah.
I have to give some love to this fight because on the card, the only one that didn't end in decision.
You're right.
So, big love for being able to get a finish here.
Yeah, but I have to say that it was probably the goofiest submission ever. Like, the fight is back and forth the whole fight, and then... It's funny because you listen to the instructions in the corner. So between rounds, the coaches are in the corner telling the fighter what to do and what not to do. And so Mark DeKessie's his trainer is like, or his coach is like, okay, enough with the takedowns. Don't do any takedowns. Let's just let's just finish this fight. And
sure enough,
42 seconds into round 3, Mark DeKessie decides to go for a takedown and gets choked out. Like, dude,
yeah, it was really ill-advised.
Yeah, it's ill-advised when your coach tells you don't do any takedowns. like that's the thing.
We got to finish out of it, and that's what counts.
Well, you know what this reminds me of. You know what this reminds me of.
The fact that you never should have gotten in the ring with me?
No. Well, speaking of you getting in the ring, this reminds me of the first fight you ever had at Ticket Fight Night long ago.
Why are we bringing up my old record?
This was the first fight you lost of the 3 that you've lost so far.
Allegedly. I did not.
So here it is. So KC and I were getting ready to fight our first fight, but he signed up for Ticket Fight Night. The Ticket is the local sports station, and every year they do a tough man competition. And, they just encourage people to sign up and really kind of audition to fight on this live broadcast fight. It's sanctioned by USA Boxing. It's legit. And so KC has me in his corner, and I tell him, and this thing is hosted.
My first mistake.
Yes.
You was my corner man.
Okay. So it was hosted outside in the middle of the summer.
In Texas. Like, come on now.
And so I tell him, I said, all right, let me just tell you like this, man. I know it's 3 1-minute rounds, but there are 3 rounds. So don't go all out in the first round. I remember
you
distinctly
just can't
telling
account
you
for that adrenaline dump when the crowd is there, the lights are on. I mean, we were the co-main event. Like this, it was kind of a big deal. It was hard not to go all out.
It was easily 2,000 people there, and you come in there. What, you land a punch at the very beginning of the fight?
Oh yeah, I heard him early in the fight, and I was like, "Oh, I smell blood. Let's go." And then I realized I have no cardio. It is hot out here. One of those like, all right, so he's hurt, but he's not going down. Oh God, what do I do? I just wanted to kick him so bad.
And so the first round ends. You have completely gassed out and
completely done.
And so they throw in the towel in the second round because you were just laying on the ring like somebody.
In my defense, so what I was doing was rope-a-doping. So the guy's throwing punches. He's missing. The problem is I just am too tired to get my hands back up. And my corner is like, screw this, you're done. I'm like, but wait, I'm not hurt. I just can't breathe.
So I tell him, like, I told you, don't go all out in the first round. Like, why don't people listen to their corner?
My favorite part about being in that moment was realizing what it was like to truly be the fighter and hear your corner. And I remember you telling me, get my hands up. And I looked back at you like, I can't. I just can't.
And those are heavy gloves. Like, those are, 16 or 18-ounce gloves. They are basically pillows on your hands. And
we were pillow fighting out there. That was terrible.
My gosh. I mean, after you swing your arms with those things on your hands, you get really, really tired.
Yeah, that was lesson learned. So I can't really I can't fault Mark for kind of losing presence of mind and still going for a takedown despite his corner's concerns. Still something that, as a pro, you're supposed to be able to do, but I totally get it.
Well, talk about somebody who did what his corner wanted him to do. Khabib Nurmagomedov defeated Edson Barbosa via unanimous decision. Now, Khabib Nurmagomedov, he's an undefeated Russian tank because the dude just runs right over people.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Edson Barbosa fight was supposed to be like the big competition because, you know, Edson Barbosa just Khabib Nurmagomedov just ragdolled everybody, like just throw them around the ring like a Raggedy Andy. And so Edson Barbosa, this elite striker, wins so many of his fights by blinding head kick. You were expecting that finally Khabib was going to get tested and maybe even beat.
There was a chance. I mean, there's a lot of hype around Barbosa. I mean, his knockout over Beneil Dariush is interesting. He's got some awards along the way, but is he really the biggest challenge for Khabib?
Well, he didn't.
I feel like there's. What's that?
He didn't prove to be one because Khabib took Edson Barbosa down in the first round, and by the time the fight was over, we really needed to play that Arms of an Angel because Edson Barbosa was giving the referee puppy dog eyes to stop the fight.
That's true, but the thing about it is that for as much hype as there wasn't a finish. And if Khabib really believes that he can hang in there with Conor, you've got to be able to put guys like Barbosa away.
Well, I mean, it's fair. It's fair. But I don't think that I'm going to tell you like this. I don't think that he couldn't put Barbosa away. I think he chose not to put Barbosa away. Because, I mean, he was doing so much damage, and Barbosa was exhausted. Like, by the second round, for sure, Barbosa was just letting Khabib take him down, and was just mauling over him. And I'm telling you, this is all that should be playing.
In the arms of the angel, fly.
I mean, he is just laying there looking off into the distance as Khabib just beats him just to a pulp. He's just looking off. It's like that, in like Mutual of Omaha, whenever the zebra is drinking at the water and the alligator grabs a hold of him and the zebra just stands there while the alligator eats him. This is what was going on when Khabib was just like holding Edson Barbosa down and punching him in the face.
It was not ideal. But I mean, Khabib went in there, he got the work done, so props to him and the trash talk. I mean, he did that quite well.
Oh yeah,
like mid-fight, it said that he was talking to Dana like, I want Conor. Like, dude, yes.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. He walked between the rounds. He walks over to Dana and is like, "We gonna talk or what?" Like this fight is no longer a threat to me, so I'm just gonna, I'm gonna go in and show what I can do, and then we'll talk about what happens next. Speaking about what happens next, Cris Cyborg in the main event of the evening. Cris Cyborg defeated Holm via unanimous decision, but it wasn't really. I mean, it was just basically a Cyborg show, putting it on Holm. Like, Holly really didn't. I was surprised they gave her some rounds. Like, it was like 4-1 or 3-2, and I had it 5-0. Cris Cyborg, all 5 rounds for Cris Cyborg.
Very interesting. I mean, what I liked about it is you got Cris not getting overly excited in the first round and just trying to get it all done there. She paced herself well and was efficient throughout every single round. So she really showed what a championship fight can look like, that you don't have to play it as safe, but at the same time, like, she was smart about her approach.
Well, I agree with that, and the damage on Holm's face absolutely showed how Cris Cyborg has evolved as a fighter. I mean, that big shiner on her eye. It was about
Holly Holm
closed.
looked unrecognizable after the fight. Like, who is this person? And get them help immediately. It was bad.
So
like, Cris put in work on that face.
I'm going to be honest with you. So the day after the fights, I saw a picture of Bruce Buffer, the ring announcer, standing with Holly Holm, and she had like a hoodie on. And
Yep.
I'm looking at it, I'm like, who is that woman that Bruce Buffer brought to the fights? Like, she's a battered woman. I guess it was so nice that Bruce Buffer found this lady who had, I guess, been beaten or gotten into a car accident and brought her to the fights. And then I read the caption, it's Holly Holm.
Yeah. Holly it was not a great day for Holly.
It was not. Fortunately, she gets paid to get to look like that, so
Not nearly enough. I mean, $300K versus Cyborg's $500K. For that kind of beating, I would need a lot more money.
So I have to pay you, huh?
You know
take
what?
that kind of beating?
I can't trash talk with you now because I'm focused on, for our listeners who are going to be out in Oakland this weekend, come out to the Oakland Barbell Club because I am competing in the USSF Nationals, and that's where my mind is. After that, 2 weeks after that Nationals competition, I will be in the gym preparing to beat our friend Ryan.
Okay, well, look, that's a tease. We're not going to go any further.
Just leave it right there.
We'll just leave it right there. Okay, so that is the card. You're all caught up. Let's close the book on this one. Put it on the shelf because this one is history.
Dunzo.
History.
No, we're changing it out for 2018.
How many shows have we done? And I say the same thing after this segment every time.
7.
More than 7. But all right. This one is history. Normally we would go right into finding the angles, but this is one we're going to go into storylines.
Storylines.
So, one of the reasons why I like UFC and MMA so much is because of the fact that it's not just climb in the ring and fight when it comes to the UFC. There are stories that follow the fighters. These fighters are people, and you get to learn more and more about the people who are stepping into the ring and why they fight and what impact winning and losing those fights have on their career and on their lives. And this time of year is the time of the year where we start to celebrate, the accomplishments of 2017. So you had the Golden Globes on last night, and in the MMA world, they are starting to give their awards for various performances of the year. And so in 2015, KC and I did the Combat Sports Talk Excellence Awards. And, because 2016 we were on hiatus, 2017 we started halfway through the year, and so it wasn't really fair for us to do an award show. I thought it would be cool, if it's all right with you, KC, to just kind of look at a couple of the awards that other sites and other groups have been giving to the fighters, and I thought we might just comment on those. Is that cool?
Love it. Let's do it.
All right. So, Fight of the Year. I went and looked at various sites around the internet. MMA Fighting, MMA Mania, and SureDog all awarded Justin Gaethje versus Michael Johnson the Fight of the Year. And unfortunately, I didn't actually see that fight, but I went back and read some of the descriptions of it. And it was basically stand in the middle of the ring and see who could knock who out first.
I remember bits and pieces of just the absolute slugfest of it, which was just kind of awesome. I do have to go back and watch that because I have no idea who won.
Justin Gaethje won second round TKO. So I think they basically gassed each other out in the first round, and Michael Johnson just didn't have as much as Gaethje did in the second round, and he ended the fight. But I do want to say that ESPN awarded Fight of the Year to Yancy Medeiros versus Alex Oliveira in UFC 2018. We actually covered this particular fight, and that was a really exciting fight as well. But I think the consensus of the community is that the Justin Gaethje versus Michael Johnson is the Fight of the Year. Have any guess who won Knockout of the Year? Any guess?
It's got to be Rose.
Seriously?
Dude, come on.
Really?
That's the most impact. It was the most impactful knockout that no one ever saw coming. So, of course, we got to give it to Francis because it was devastating, and I'm pretty sure he technically killed his opponent. But for me personally, I got to say Rose was the more impactful because it was for a title.
Okay,
and she was such an underdog.
So the rest of the MMA world, not named Casey Onyebuchi, picked Francis Ngannou versus Alistair Overeem because I hate to say this to you, but you know the Rose knockout was actually a TKO, a technical knockout, but Francis Ngannou actually put Alistair Overeem in the sunken place.
All right, that's fair. I will give you that. It was the nastiest actual knockout that I've seen in a very long time.
Oh, my gosh. And it may end up happening again, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Submission of the Year. This was a unanimous. I went to MMA Fighting, ESPN, MMA
I gotta
Junkie.
say, that's Mighty Mouse, yeah?
Yes, Mighty Mouse. Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson with the Mighty Armbar, or the Mouse Trap is what people called it. And we talked about this one on the show when he, at the very end of the fight versus Ray Borg, to clinch his 11th consecutive victory and record-setting win, he grabbed Ray Borg from behind, threw him in the air, and as Ray Borg was coming to the ground, Mighty Mouse grabbed his arm and began to winch it the other way, hyperextending it and coming in with a submission victory. It was an incredible thing to see.
Well, I like to think of it as Mighty Mouse just decided to hit the cheat code and went into like God mode on the video game.
You know, I think it's fair to say that every time Mighty Mouse walks into the ring, he's in God mode. Dude can't be stopped. He's won 11 straight title defenses. I'm excited to see TJ Dillashaw. If he can make weight, I'm excited about that fight. Last one, last category, Fighter of the Year. This was not a unanimous decision. Depending on which website, which blog you go to, they all had something different. MMA Fighting who do I have?
Yeah, who do you have?
I think I'm going to go with who the UFC went with, and that was Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, setting a record, history-making 11 consecutive title defenses, and doing it in such a spectacular fashion. That's the one I got. How about you?
I'm gonna go with Daniel Cormier.
Why?
For no reason whatsoever.
Okay, so
I wanted to say John Jones because it was still a nasty knockout. Like he legitimately made Cormier cry. But we got to leave John Jones out of the conversation because he's no longer relevant for 8 years.
Some of the other fighters of the years, MMA Fighting's Fight of the Year was Max Holloway for beating Jose Aldo not once but twice. ESPN selected Rose Namajunas, who I thought that was going to be your shoe-in for that one. MMA Mania also chose Max Holloway, and SureDog.com chose Robert Whittaker, who's coming up fighting, defending his now no longer an interim champion because George St. Pierre gave up his belt. So he is now the real middleweight champion fighting in his home nation of Australia versus Luke Rockhold. All right, so that's
Super
it.
Cool.
That's it. Fighter of the Year. So we're going to go right into finding the angles. We got a couple of, we're not going to really get into the headlines as so much as we're going to get into some of just the themes that are dominating the MMA world right now. So let's get right into it with Finding the Angles. is Finding the Angles. This is where we look at what are the headlines that are making waves in the MMA world. And the first one, that not really headline, but the theme that is everyone's talking about is the Conor McGregor saga. This is, what is he going to do next? Is he going to fight? Is he going to quit, defend, or vacate? What's going to happen with this one? There's a log jam at the top of lightweight.
It's gotten super crazy with it, and realistically, I mean, Dana White keeps trying to hint towards the fact that, look, Conor McGregor's made so much money that we just have to come up with a reason for him to fight, which, like, I absolutely get it, but don't hold the fans hostage at this point, and you got to make a decision. I know that Dana's put in a deadline for this, but with his history with Conor, it's very likely that deadline gets pushed.
So let's back up for the listeners here. There is a logjam at the top of lightweight. Conor McGregor is the champ at 155 pounds. He knocked out Eddie Alvarez. No one really thought he was going to do it because he had just beaten Jose Aldo at 145 in 13 seconds. Immediately, they gave him a title shot without having to fight any lightweights against Eddie Alvarez. He beat Eddie Alvarez and then went off and fought Floyd Mayweather, made $140 million, and now he's got no reason to fight. Now, while he's gone, Tony Ferguson, my guy, El Cucuy, gets a shot at the interim title. So in the fight game, when the champion can't defend the title for whatever reason, sometimes they'll set up an interim title so that they can keep churning the fights and keep everything moving. So you might remember that we covered the Motown phenom Kevin Lee versus Tony Ferguson for the lightweight middleweight title, which despite Kevin Lee almost missing weight and coming in with a staph infection, Tony Ferguson won the title. Now, a couple of weeks ago, Khabib Nurmagomedov came in and defeated one of the top-rated lightweights, creating this logjam where you've got Conor as a champion, Tony Ferguson as an interim champion, and Khabib Nurmagomedov, the most popular choice right now to fight Conor McGregor. So what do you do? Because you really need to have Tony Ferguson fight Conor McGregor so that you don't have this split title, but at the same time, people want to see Conor fight Khabib, and then technically, people want to see Khabib fight Tony Ferguson as well. So you've got this fight triangle. I don't think you can call it a love triangle.
That would not be the correct term for this.
There's no love here.
Well, what's interesting is, so I personally think that Conor would much rather face up with Khabib. Khabib is a much better matchup for Conor as far as his length and his abilities to weather the storm of Khabib pressing forward constantly, because Conor being the counter striker, he's going to wait for Khabib to do what he does best, which is to keep pressing the fight and just wait for an opening. Whereas with Tony Ferguson, Conor's got a lot bigger task on his hands because Tony's a lot more rangy. He can handle himself incredibly well on the ground. So Conor gets the excuse of, well, he wants to see what plays out first between Khabib and Tony. But realistically, Conor's best bet is for Khabib to beat Ferguson so that he's got the better matchup. And he's in the perfect seat to do this. He gets to call the shots, and with infallibility is to say, well, I just don't want to do this if he ends up having to fight Ferguson. If not, then he comes in and he makes even more money fighting Khabib.
Well, here's the thing, is the UFC is starting to put a lot of pressure on him. They're saying that if he doesn't fight by March, they're going to strip the belt from him. So I think really what the UFC wants to do is they want to book the fight between Khabib and Tony. But and I've been tweeting this on Twitter, and I'm hoping that Tony sees this. It's like, listen, do not fight Khabib Nurmagomedov if they don't give you the full title. If you walk in as an interim title in that fight, then what the heck was the fight between you and Kevin Lee all about? There was no reason to fight that fight.
Yeah, it holds no meaning.
Yeah, and Conor McGregor He's held the title for over a year now, and he's never defended it. Why would you have, when the champion is completely healthy and available, why would you have the interim champion defend the title before the actual champion? Like, all of this doesn't make sense. Like, the UFC needs to clean their house here. They need to put their house in order, because this is ridiculous. And I just can't stand the fact that they're not pressing Conor McGregor to fight Tony Ferguson, because that's the fight that needs to happen first, regardless.
Yeah, for sure. But, UFC has been known to make crazy things happen, so it is both interesting and frustrating. You never know what's going to happen, what decision Dana goes with.
So speaking of crazy things happening, Khabib Nurmagomedov is kind of sitting back going, listen, I'm going to beat both of them, so why don't you just let me fight them both in one night? So he actually requested that he could fight Tony Ferguson and Conor McGregor on the same night, with just a little bit of rest between the two.
Perfect stunt that could never happen, but I dig it.
Yeah, but let's just, for the listeners, this guy is a 25-0 Russian who grew up wrestling bears, okay? So you don't want to put it past him that he could do it. That's why I got the rule, you never bet against the Russians.
I support it.
All right, let's go to the next.
I support it.
Let's go to the next theme. There is a woman who seems unbeatable, and that's Cris Cyborg. Who's next for her? She's cleaned out the entire female race. There is not a single female on the planet that I think could stand with Cris Cyborg right now. So what is she going to do? She's already killed Holm. Dana White wants her to fight Amanda Nunes next, but I think that's a dumb fight.
There's no advantage whatsoever to her fighting Nunes. It cheapens her title. It cheapens Cyborg's title to have someone try to pull up weight, and someone who's champion of their own division. I mean, what it really speaks to is the lack of talent in the division, rather than saying, "Oh, this is actually an interesting fight." So there's really no upside to making that fight happen whatsoever.
All right, so who's Amanda Nunes? Amanda Nunes she's called the Lioness, and she is a Brazilian fighter who is a fantastic striker. That's her thing. She can use her hands. And so she beat Miesha Tate for the title. Then she defended her first title defense was against one Ronda Rousey, and she put Ronda Rousey out in the first round. And so Amanda Nunes is a wonderful fighter, but she's a 135-pound fighter. Once you start getting to 145 pounds, the size and weight differences become a factor. I mean, we saw it with Holm. Holm is a 135-pound fighter. Coming up to 145 to try to fight, she did her best, but she ended up with a black eye the size of a softball.
Yeah, it's no trivial task to move up weight classes. It is, and this is yet another reason why it doesn't make sense. Like, what has to happen is for someone to, we've got to be able to find a way to get Cyborg a money fight, because she's really transformed women's MMA. I think her name goes right next to Ronda Rousey in what she's done for women's MMA. But she's just not a fighter who's going to get the draw. So Conor coming back is a great thing, but you still don't have a fighter to put her in there. I mean, who really wants to get pummeled like that? I mean, the after picture of Holly Holmes did not help the chances of someone else coming in there and saying, "Yep, I'll take a Cyborg fight." So it's a tricky situation.
So what are your thoughts about Kat Zingano? I mean, she's got a fairly large frame. Maybe she could go in there and stand with Cris Cyborg.
So Kat right now is posting pictures on Instagram at 154, I want to say, was the last weight I think I saw there. So is it plausible? Yeah, but Kat didn't do great fighting at a lower weight class. I just really don't like her chances against Cyborg, to be honest. Like, sure, like it's great. Maybe this is just, hey, I'm feeling healthy. I'm walking around at more of my normal weight versus having to cut. But I mean, with the division running so thin, I think the right dollar amount will make anyone risk their lives and take that beating.
Yeah, that's it's good to know that I just need to make sure that you have the right dollar amount.
You don't want that in your life.
So speaking of weight, we got to get to the big guys, heavyweight. We'll be talking about this more next week, but Stipe Miocic, the heavyweight champion, a.k.a. the baddest man on the planet, is scheduled to fight the current hardest puncher in the world and 2017 Knockout of the Year recipient, Francis Ngannou. Now, Francis Ngannou is really, really, really popular right now because of that fight versus Alistair Overeem. And Stipe Miocic, the champion, feels disrespected because he feels like the UFC wants Ngannou to win because of his popularity. Here's a question for you. I really just want to know your opinion on this. Does the UFC have a stake in the outcome of fights? Do they want certain fighters to win, or do they not care?
I mean, it's very clear in the way that they do their promotions that the UFC is incredibly invested in certain fighters winning because there are certain more marketable people. Having the world's strongest puncher as your heavyweight champion is amazing marketing. Now, Stipe Miocic is a great champ. In whatever measure you want to use for what a good champion is. Like, the guy is just a class act all around. He puts on a show. He finishes fights. But the mystique that we have right now with Francis, the airtime he can get around just his overall strength is, of course, one of the things that the UFC feels like they can make money on.
Oh, okay. So that means that they are invested in seeing Francis Ngannou's hand raised next week at UFC 220. So, it is next week, right? Whenever
we'll go with
January 20th. It's January 20th.
Define a week.
I don't have a single calendar in here, so I don't really know. I know today is Monday. That's all I know.
We'll go with that.
All right. So we talked about the heavyweights, but we can't talk about heavyweights if we don't talk about the red-crested stepchild, Bellator, coming in with the heavyweight tournament, also kicking off that weekend.
So it turns out the 20th is just a huge, huge day for all of MMA. So you've got the Bellator tournament with the people that we would have loved to see fight 5 to 10 years ago. Notably, we got some UFC former great fighters there. We've got the likes of Roy Nelson, who, man, he's slimmed down quite a bit. Have you seen any of his recent training videos?
No, I haven't.
So Roy's looking like he's actually going to take this somewhat seriously. It's quite interesting. So, of course, with this tournament, it's going to be kind of the heavyweight tournament, or the Bellator World Grand Prix, as we call it. So we've got some former UFC greats like Rampage Jackson, Chael Sonnen, and then we've got Frank Mir in there, Fedor, King Mo, Ryan Bader, Roy Nelson, and Matt Mitrione. So, man, it's a great concept, first of all. So I love the notion of making your champion actually mean something. Like, they've gone through the gauntlet, and it's the best of the best that you've had, and there's no favoritism being played here. So I went over to MMAfighting.com to just kind of check out what do the fans think is going to happen here. Everyone's kind of got their own favorites, and right now Matt Mitrione actually leads in this tournament of 8. He leads as the fan favorite at 30%. Believe that Matt Mitrione will be able to take home the championship. At the very bottom, almost no one believes King Mo has a chance, and I fully support that.
Okay,
so I think that'll be something interesting. I don't know if it's enough to draw away from UFC's event, but it's still interesting.
So, does it strike you as weird? How many fighters are in there? Is it 6, 8? It's 8, right?
There's 8, yeah.
Does it strike you as weird that 8 of the fighters in the Bellator Grand Prix are former UFC washouts?
Yeah, this is I don't even know how to describe it, because it's not the B team. This is like watching old people play golf. Like, it's just not. It's not that interesting anymore.
But even more than that, You got King Mo, who's a light heavyweight, so he's not really a heavyweight. You got Chael Sonnen, who fought at middleweight. You got Rampage, who fought at light heavyweight. You got Ryan Bader, who's a light heavyweight champion of Bellator right now. You know, so really the only heavyweights you got in this competition right now, because Fedor really was a light heavyweight. So really, I mean, he fought at heavyweight, but really, though, he was a light heavyweight. So the really only heavyweights you have in this competition is Matt Mitrione, a.k.a. Meathead.
Yep.
And Big Country Roy Nelson.
Yeah. Well, I think we can include Frank Mir here.
And Frank Mir. Yeah. So you got, of the 8, only 3 are true heavyweights.
Yeah.
6 of them couldn't hold a spot in the UFC heavyweight division, which is depleted to death.
Yep. And then you got to consider the fact that these guys are fighting up. I mean, part of that is because as you get older, cutting weight gets miserable and almost impossible. So some of these guys are just going to be a lot slower and having to rely on technique. I think rather than a slugfest, we're going to see a lot of lay and pray happening in this tournament.
So I love the concept. Like this is the thing that you know I keep going back to with Bellator. It's like they've got a lot of good ideas, but it's the execution that becomes a problem. Like, are there not other heavyweights somewhere out in the world that they could bring to their promotion so that they are not just recycling fighters who are past their prime? I mean, let's face it.
The problem is, to get people interested, you got to have the names. Like, if there was a no-name heavyweight thrown in this mix, how much more do you care?
You know, I don't know, but how old is Fedor? How old is Frank Mir?
This is the above 40 bracket.
Fedor Emelianenko, 41 years old.
Yep.
Frank Mir, he's 38.
We'll count it as 40.
I mean, it's like, guys, you know, I'm pulling for Bellator. I really am. And I hope this works out for them. And I hope this is an amazing resurgence for these elderly fighters. And I want it to be like the thing that gets people watching that promotion and turning away from the UFC, because I think that they do a lot right about making sure that people who fight in Bellator actually earn the title shots that they get. Like, that's the way, that's the right way to do it. But I just struggle to get excited about these fights. That's all I got. I'm not going to go any further. Let's move on. Fight card. There's a fight card this weekend. It's taking place in St. Louis. I'm now going to play the fight card, the fight card music, and then I'm not, because I hit the button. There we go. All right, this right here, this is the fight card. This is where we talk about the fights that are coming up, and this is going to be on Saturday in St. Louis. There is, I think it's going to be UFC on FX1 this Saturday. Yep. So there's 4 fights on the card. Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare Usman versus Emil Valhalla Meek. So you've got the Nigerian Nightmare versus a Viking. Who do you got?
I'm going Nigerian Nightmare.
You're a homer.
I think Kamaru is due to break the top 10. Like, he's on a pretty good run. I believe in him.
All right. In the flyweight women's division, you've got Paige 12-gauge Van Zant, who finally decided that she was done with Dancing with the Stars and all the other stuff that she's been doing, cheerleading. I don't know what else she's been doing. Going to the disco.
She's been dodging Jessica Eye is what she's been doing.
That's what she's been doing. Jessica Evil Eye. But she decided to go after another Jessica Rose Clark, who, if you remember, took a late fight replacement and ended up being one of the few, the proud, the winners after stepping into a fight, a late fight replacement. So 12 gauge. I still think she's overrated after that Rose Namajunas fight. But it was Rose with no hair, not Rose with hair.
Rose no hair is a whole different fighter.
Yeah, okay, we won't even go there. Rose. Anyway, number 11, Uriah Primetime Hall gets to fight number 12, Vitor, the Phenom Belfort. This guy, Vitor Belfort, has been in the league in the UFC for so long that like
everyone's fought Vitor at this point.
At this point, like. Yeah, and I don't even know how this fight's going to be because you've got Vitor, who's finally off of TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, allegedly. And you got Uriah Primetime Hall, who finds himself losing because he can't stay focused on what he's trying to do. This is going to be just a strange fight to watch.
It's hard to call it because you never know which Uriah Hall is going to come in. Is it going to be the guy with the devastating kicks who fights like he's in a video game, or is it going to be the nervous fighter who's so focused on protecting himself he forgets that he's actually supposed to generate offense? Yeah,
it's going to be strange. So we'll see about that. And then the main event of the evening, number 9, Jeremy Little Heathen Stevens is fighting Doo-Ho Choi. I got nothing.
South Korea. For no reason, I'm picking Doo-Ho on this one, and write that down in the books, because I'm always right.
Okay, so here's the funny thing about this fight. So, the Doo-Ho Choi, every time they show promos about Doo-Ho Choi, they show him getting beaten up. And they're like, oh my gosh, look at all the damage he's able to sustain, and he keeps coming. It's like, wait a minute, this is not, why are you showing this? Yeah, it's like he's getting beaten up, and they're like he's eating all these punches. Like, yeah, he might have won the fight, but he sure did pay a heavy price to win. I don't think he's gonna survive at Jeremy Stevens. I think Jeremy Stevens is going to finish this dude, and it's gonna Doo-Ho Choi is gonna be. I don't know. I don't know what's up with me tonight. I just don't have anything to finish my. Doo-Ho Choi's gonna lose. There you go.
Nailed it.
All right. That's our show. Follow us on social media. On Twitter, I'm at CST Ryan.
And I am at CST_K&C.
You can check us out on the website at www.combatsportstalk.com. You can also find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Facebook, like our page, and Instagram. Do you have an Instagram, Casey?
I've got 4 different ones, but for today, I'm going to go with at Push Pull Pray. That's my fighting one. Just
really?
Let it be. Yeah. You know what? I hate you. I couldn't keep sending people to my personal Instagram where I do all my music and whatnot.
But you should.
Let me be.
You should. We should play some of your music on the show. You're a very talented person.
You.
I recently
I hate you with the passion of 1,000 suns.
I recently learned that you play 12 instruments. That is talent.
And I fight.
Yeah, you play the banjo and the banjo guitar.
It's actually bantar. Thank you very much. There is a difference. Our theme music is composed by Scott McCurry at scottdeancountry.com. Casey Onyebuchi produced our lead-ins. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Combat Sports Talk. For Casey Onyebuchi, I'm Ryan Smith reminding you to keep your hands up, your chin tucked, and throw bombs.